Welcome to Where Are They Now? We reach into the archives of Lenape, Shawnee, Cherokee, and Seneca High Schools and invite selected alumni to share memories and fill us in on their career paths after commencement. Since Lenape's first graduating class in 1961, Shawnee's in 1972, Cherokee's in 1978, and Seneca's in 2005, over 72,000 individuals have received diplomas from these four schools.
Hello and welcome to Where Are They Now? I'm Mark Sonsini, a 1996 graduate of Cherokee High School, and today we'll be talking with two Lenape graduates who are siblings, as well as local business owners. Our guest for the first half of the show is a graduate from the class of 2007. He owns CrossFit Hygge and lives in Haddonfield, New Jersey. I'd like to welcome Maggie Alfinito to the show. Tom, welcome.
Thanks.
Nice to have you here today. So before we get started into what you're doing now, let's kind of back up to your time at Lenape, and right before that, you and your sister both grew up here in Mount Laurel?
Yep.
Okay. And any other siblings that went to Lenape?
Yeah, so there's four of us, so I have two younger brothers as well. Vinny, and then my other brother Frankie, who he only went here for 1 year and then went to tech school.
Okay. So your time at Lenape, let's talk about some of the teachers that had an impact on you. One of the big ones was Matt Tavares for English. Tell me about him.
So I was lucky enough I had him my sophomore year and my senior year. It was mostly his personality, and he would, like some teachers would like stick to the plan and be like very focused on like what they're working on, and he definitely had his plan and everything, but he had no problem if he thought it would like keep us engaged or help us kind of learn to kind of go off track and like just engage with us on like wherever we wanted to go, which was especially cool for English because some of the times the books are like ones that you're into or you'll read, but a lot of the times they're not something you would have chose.
Right.
So it's nice that he kind of like brought it to life for you a little bit.
And you had some skits maybe you did during class?
Yeah, our senior year, he I can't remember which it was, but it was definitely a Shakespeare play, and I feel like he kind of noticed everyone wasn't feeling it too much.
Yeah.
So he let us kind of like film and go like put together a story for it.
Okay.
Reenact it in like modern day, and I think it turned out terribly, but I think it was more about like getting us to just kind of actually think about it and try to put it all together and everything. So that was definitely like one of the more memorable things just from like the teaching in the classroom thing.
Right.
And I think that's why I liked him so much, because he was not afraid to go out of the box, because just to get us like actually engaging and like talking about it all.
Terrific. And then Jack Earl was your lacrosse coach here at Lenape. That was one of the things that you did while at your time here. Tell me about the impact he had on you.
So I started playing lacrosse my junior year. I think they only started the JV team our sophomore year. So I think before then there was only like a varsity team anyway.
Okay.
And there wasn't a freshman team or anything like that. So I started my junior year, so I started kind of late. And the
first time you were playing lacrosse, right?
Yeah.
You never played it before.
Yeah, I hadn't played before. So I made the team for JV, and Mr. Earl was the coach. And I feel like we ended up going undefeated, and I kind of got to be the captain of the team, and we just had a lot of fun, like every game. So it's funny because a lot of times, like you think, like when you play sports, like all right, varsity, that's where it's at. It's like the top, and you get to that'll be the most fun. But I actually found it was the opposite for me. Was my junior year, especially having Mr. Earl, who kind of was like looking out for me, especially my next year when I went to varsity.
Okay.
And just having that like more laid back, and we won every game, but we had a lot of fun with it. It was just like a really special year for that. And then I found like I went to varsity, and it was cool for different reasons.
Yeah.
But Mr. Earl was huge because we practiced a lot together, JV and varsity.
Right.
So even when I went to varsity, and it's a lot more overwhelming, and you're like fighting for your time and your spot, he was like kind of my like always in my corner. Like I still remember like in the preseason when I was still trying to like make varsity. I did something where like I beat somebody and I scored a goal, and out of the corner of my eye I saw him like give a little fist bump, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome. So for me it was just he was like always in my corner, kind of always helping me out, but did it like quietly.
Yeah, that's great. You need people like that.
Yeah.
So aside from lacrosse, you're also involved with ice hockey, and then National Honor Society, and Future Business Leaders of America.
Yeah. So for ice hockey, I was a goalie, so gives you a little idea of my mindset. I think goalies are a little crazy sometimes.
Not goalie in lacrosse, though?
No.
Okay.
They wanted me to play goalie when I was like freshman, sophomore year, first year I was playing goalie for lacrosse.
Okay.
I think that's another level of crazy. Even when I played, sometimes you're playing and like you accidentally hit the goalie in the leg, and then he's got to limp around, and like he's like, I need 10 minutes. So very different. I'll take all the pads, ice hockey, and everything. Yeah, so I played goalie for ice hockey. That was just, I love that. That was just like a great experience, and you get to be like kind of the last line of defense. You're like, you can have like a really strong effect on the game. Yeah. So I love doing that. For the other two, FBLA, I initially got into that because I saw I got a day off from school, and I was like, okay, cool. And it's one of those things where you actually go somewhere and you take a test. You get to pick like the topic. And I got really lucky because I picked something to do with like computer systems. And right before I had done the test, I had an MP3 player. It was called a kazoo before even iPads or iPods were things. Yep. And it broke, so I spent like a day trying to like fix it and rewriting the system underneath it and everything. And then when I went and took the test, it was everything that like I had just like, I can't remember who, but one of my other friends was taking it who was like genius level smart, and we were both in the same thing. So I remember they said like the top 3 or something got to go to regionals, and they said like, oh, from Lenape was this person. Everyone started patting my friend on the back like, oh, good job, like they expected him to be the one. And then they said my name, and everyone was kind of like, oh. So I just did that 1 year, but it was cool because I got to go to I guess I don't even know what it was, like regionals or something like that, and take the test there. I do remember I was playing lacrosse at the time, so it was junior, senior year, and I remember the coach wasn't too happy because I had to miss a day to go in, miss a practice to go in for that, yeah. And then for NHS, I did that. That was more like my mom was like, all right, you don't have anything on your like resume for high school, so she made me do NHS a little bit because I just had ice hockey and lacrosse for college, exactly. So she made me do that, but one of the coolest things we got out of that was you were supposed to, like for senior citizens, they were allowed to like apply for help. And it was supposed to be like you went and did gardening for a day or something like that. Like it was supposed to be a day of work and then you left.
Community service.
Yeah, so me and my friend Jimmy, we just like picked through the list and saw this one lady that asked for help. So we went there and she was like, well, I don't really need gardening, I don't really need anything done, but I need someone to take out my trash. And we were like, okay, so we took out her trash, organized some things, and then she was kind of like, okay, so I'll see you next week. And we were like, all right, sure, why not? And she had to pay us. Like, we were like, we don't need money, like, we have to do this anyway, and we like doing it. But she would always give us like $4. Like, we'd take $2 each, or like, whatever, it was cool. So we ended up doing that for the whole year. Wow. And we actually looked forward to it. One of us would pick the other one up, we'd go over and we'd take her trash out, we'd talk to her for like 10 minutes, and she was the nicest lady. Her husband had passed away. So that's kind of why she needed the help. And occasionally she'd have other little things. So we ended up doing it for the year. I still remember at the end of the year, they were like, you need a certain number of community service hours. And we just figured since we had been there for like every week that we would be good. And they were like, well, it was supposed to be kind of different things like that. So we had to go back and forth and kind of document that we did all those hours. But the coolest part was his sister was a year younger than him. So she was in NHS the next year, and she was so worried about when we left how she was going to get her trash out. I also think it was like having someone to talk to. Sure. So we actually passed it down to, I think his sister was 2 years younger, but we had a friend whose sister was there. So we passed down to her, and then she passed it down to his sister. Oh, wow. And it kept getting passed down. So it was pretty cool because like when I was in college, like 3 or 4 years later, I talked to him and he was like, yeah, so-and-so is still going there and hanging out and taking out her trash. So that was actually something so small that I wouldn't have expected, but that's actually like one of the coolest memories I think I have from an NHS or from like my senior year.
That's awesome. Yeah. Terrific. All right, so after Lenape, you move on to college, Towson University in Maryland. Yeah. And you go in as a finance major, right? And part of the way through that, you kind of realize that maybe that's not the path that you want to take.
Thanks to Lenape, when I went here, I had Mr. Mitchell was actually for, I guess it's like history class, social studies, he actually had us fill something out in the beginning of the year, and if we got an A in the class, it would transfer credits in for us for college credits. So I had college credits transfer in from there, and I did a couple summer classes. So I was in my second year, but I was a little bit ahead, so I was doing a lot of like my third year stuff. And the only reason I bring that up is because it's like it felt like things were accelerating. Like, I'm going down the finance thing, and then I did an internship with Ameriprise Financial because I was kind of going down the path of like financial planning. But to be honest, I feel like my senior year of high school, like I was having too much fun, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't really focused on it. So then they're like, all right, you got to go to school, and I went to Towson, and then when you get there, before your classes, they're like, all right, what do you want to focus on? So you kind of have that track set. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll do business. It's broad enough where I can kind of pick later.
Yeah.
And then I feel like I was enjoying my college experience, but I wasn't really focused on like, what am I going to do later?
Yeah.
So then they're like, all right, what's your concentration? And I was like, I don't know, finance. Maybe I can help people like do some financial planning. And then I did the internship with Ameriprise, and I was doing like working with someone who did financial planning. And I see all the perks of the job and how like it pays really well. You get to work one-on-one with a lot of people and their money and helping them. But I was just like, it's a lot of sitting around, a lot of desk work, and I was like, this is not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I don't sit still well at all. So I literally went home. I had started something called CrossFit, so like a workout kind of ideology, my freshman year of college.
Okay.
And I always kind of knew in the back of my mind, like I liked exercise science. So I called my mom and I was like, I kind of messed up. I should have did exercise science. I was like, I said the same thing to her. I was like, I think I was just enjoying everything too much, and I was like not thinking about like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I want to do in 5 or 10 years?
Before you know it, you're on this career
Yeah,
path.
then I'm just down this career path. So I definitely see too how people might end up down a career path that they're not really
Yeah.
feeling, but they're just down that far. So, and I don't know, maybe it's a good thing because like I wasn't overly stressed and I wasn't overly like tied to this business idea.
Yeah.
So because I wasn't so focused long term, I just kind of felt things out, and I found like CrossFit and working out that I really liked. So my mom was really cool. She's like my person. She was super laid back about it. So she was like, just change your major. And I was like, well, I can change my major, but I'm like, because I'm so far along, I was like, I'll be here for another 2 years at least.
Yeah.
Be a lot of money, be a lot of time, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I think I'm just gonna open a gym when I graduate. And she was
Okay.
like, all right, cool. She was like super laid back. Later on, I found out my dad was the one that was freaking out and thought this was all a terrible idea. But also, my mom also talked him down and was like, just shut up and let him do his thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was kind of my path towards, I then was kind of just like, I sped it up a little bit, and my last semester was a little crazy. I realized going into my last year, I could either do, like, I had like 19 credits left.
Okay.
So I think 15 is like a normal load.
Yeah.
So I could either do like 10 and 9 and they'd be really easy, or I could just do the 19 in one semester, get it done a little early, and then go do. I was just like so excited to go start this gym idea.
Okay. What were things that you, kind of initial hurdles you had to get over to get it going?
Yeah. So my last semester was crazy because I had like, you know, they call them capstone courses. They're like your harder courses.
Yeah.
And then I also had the 19 credits, and then I was also like writing the business plan, creating like the LLC. What's cool now is you can do a lot of it online, so it's just like in my free time. And then I also was like looking for places where I wanted to start them and everything. So I would like run home some weekends, look at a building or two, run back, drive around, whatever. So my goal, just in my head, I don't know, I'm not very good with the patience thing, so I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna graduate in December, so I wanna be open in January. Like, I kind of was just all going down that route. And I guess, it was actually a good thing, but like obviously like money's a big thing there, because like
Sure.
I was in college, I worked the job for some side money, but I also played poker. So that was kind of what I did for my like living in college.
Okay.
And I was pretty good at playing online, so I was able to actually save up. I started the business with about 10 grand, so I was able to get that through playing poker, save it up, and then use that to kind of start into the business.
So your first location was in Mount Laurel, and that opened in late 2010?
Yeah.
So right around the time you were graduating, right?
Yeah, so I kind of graduated and I like signed the lease in December.
Okay.
And the first month was just like having people come in and like do intros and stuff like that. So like we were like officially doing classes and stuff in January. I tried to just keep like overhead really low and start really small. So it was actually like 1,200 square feet, so really tiny. And the way it was set up, it was like 500 of the square feet was an office.
Okay.
So we literally had like 700 or 800 square feet. So like for some people that might be the size of like their living room in their
Yeah.
house. I started it in just that little spot, and I still remember like I set up everything and I bought all my equipment. The equipment came too early, so we had like the spots changed a couple times and things like that. So I still remember the equipment coming to my house, and because it was supposed to go to like a place they could unload it, I remember like carrying each piece in one at a time to my garage, and my mom just like shaking her head because now she has like, you know,
Right.
pounds and pounds of equipment in there. So then once we got into the space, I still remember we set it all up. It was so tiny. And I didn't have enough money to even mat the whole place. I actually had
Okay.
enough to like mat like a line. So we just had like cement in a lot of spots. But the first month was like, I think I kept everything so like small and manageable. I think my goal the first month was to have like 5 signups.
Okay.
Because I'm starting from nothing. I haven't even been in the area for 4 years.
Sure.
And I still remember, like, after the first month, I sit down, I'm like doing my numbers. I had 12 signups, and I was like so psyched. I went and grabbed my mom's like SUV and just went right down and bought mats to like mat the whole floor. And that was like my first success of like just feeling like, okay, I
accomplished
I accomplished something. Like,
Yeah.
it's very small in the grand scheme of things, but I was able to get mats down and beat my goal of 5 people.
Right, terrific. Some people may not be familiar or too familiar with CrossFit. Explain kind of what the difference between that and a regular, big gym that you might go to, and kind of what your philosophy is at Hookah.
I think the biggest difference is, and this is changing now, you can see like kind of the changes CrossFit has brought to like the fitness industry, but especially back in like 2010, 2011, you basically had just these big gyms that you would pay small amount of money, so like $20 to $50, and you would just, that was to use the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So you would go in and you would just do your own thing, use the equipment, whatever, and then that was pretty much how it was set up. And if you wanted more, you could pay for like personal training, which
Right.
for most people is like $600, $800, or $1,000, because you have someone that's like working one-on-one with you.
Right.
So for that aspect, where we came in was we tried to create like an in-between. So we tried to create something where every time you come in, you come into like a class with a coach who knows what they're talking about and helps you out. Because we found like the PT, most people don't need someone there for like on them for 60 minutes, but
Right.
they do need like some form checks and to be told what to do and everything. So we kind of created this balance where we try to stay in like 10 to 15, 10 to 18 people in a class.
Okay.
So it's enough where like everyone can get like 5 minutes. But like it's that kind of in between both.
Okay.
And then the other aspect would be like from the actual training, like how it's done. CrossFit came in and just looked from like a pure efficiency standpoint and saw that like you can strength train and you can do your cardio all together.
Okay.
So it kind of like, a lot of the days it's like creating like a 15 or 20-minute workout where you are lifting on the heavier side, but you're also like breathing heavy and you're mixing it with running and maybe some like gymnastic stuff like pull-ups and things like that.
Okay.
So it kind of came in from like purely like an efficiency side, what movements are really effective, and then like how can we kind of put them together so that they get the best results in like the least amount of time, so you're not like in the gym just like sliding on a treadmill for an hour to like do cardio.
Okay. And aside from the whole physical aspect of it, I know a big focus for you is really just making a difference in people's lives and how they feel, right?
One of the big backbones of CrossFit Huga is we do a lot with community. So that's like really multifaceted, like, but it starts down with like we really believe in connections. So connections are kind of like what I think leads to like someone having like a fulfilled life. So we try to kind of facilitate that through the gym. So like it's almost like we're more about the connections, but we use exercise to do that.
Okay.
So when you come into the gym every day and you're kind of like, these workouts are hard, so you do struggle a little bit through them and you have like the hard points. So like doing that with other people really creates a bond, and you can kind of get to know them like truly as people. And that's also one of the things we try to be a little different than like a regular gym. So like a regular gym, most people go in, they put their headphones on,
Right.
and they do their thing and then they leave. So for us, because we're class-based, you come into a certain class, you're with 10 or 15 other people. Like we don't let people wear headphones actually.
Mm-hmm.
We put music on when you're working out, but there's also time to like, we pair people up, so when they're lifting or they're working on a skill, they can kind of chat and talk
Okay.
with each other and everything. So like everything we do is really focused on like creating that connection. We even do a lot of events like outside of the gym to try to get people together. We do really well with people that played like high school or college sports, because after they graduate, they don't have that team aspect anymore.
Right.
Or like we have a lot of military, we have a lot of like first responders, like firefighters,
Okay.
Police officers, and then nurses are really big. All those kind of people that are used to working in teams or did at one point in their life and kind of like miss that feeling.
Okay. You have 3 locations now. In
Yeah.
addition to Mount Laurel, you have Cherry Hill and now Medford.
Yeah.
And tell me about the name Huga. How
Sure.
did you come up with
So
that?
the first gym started out, it was across Mount Laurel, so I just kind of used the location. And then what happened was I opened another gym in Cherry Hill, and I called it CrossFit Cherry Hill, just kind of keeping it simple because that worked for the first one. And it was just very confusing. We used the same logo and everything, but people just didn't understand that they were connected.
Okay.
And I felt like I had built up a lot of like reputation and goodwill with the first location, and I was kind of losing it into the
Okay.
second one. But also CrossFit, we're just affiliates, so we can kind of do whatever we want and run the gym as long as we operate under that like CrossFit umbrella of it just being like functional fitness.
Okay.
But you have to get your name through them, and they don't let you use a name that's similar to any other name. And because CrossFit has expanded so much, because I opened Cherry Hill in 2017. At that point, it expanded so much, like all the names are taken.
Yeah.
And you see that sometimes when new gyms open and there's names that they try to use certain like English words, and it's like, yeah, it's not a great name. I don't know. So I kind of went outside the box and looked for something that kind of encapsulated that like community idea and that idea of like the place you go to for an hour and just take care of yourself.
Okay.
And I came across this word. It's hygge is how it's pronounced. People say it all different ways. They say hygie or higgy or whatever. And it doesn't really bother me because it's not an English word. So I'm like, honestly, if you're saying it, that's cool because that's
Right.
us. Like that works. But it has very loose translation. It's a Danish word. It has a loose English translation. So it's kind of like this idea of comfortable. So it's this idea of like wherever you are, where you just feel like completely at peace or relaxed. It also can kind of translate to like a sanctuary kind of idea.
Okay.
So both of those ideas kind of worked really well with like that connections thing
Sure.
that we really try to be about.
Okay. Do you run the classes, or do you have other people that run them, or you have to get certified for that? How does that work?
Yeah, so you do have to get certified. Like there's a CrossFit level 1, which is kind of like the bare minimum that you have to have to coach a CrossFit class.
Okay.
In the early days, I ran everything. I did everything. I think that's how most businesses
Yeah.
start. You kind of like bootstrap everything. Like you're
Right.
the janitor, you're the marketer, you're the coach, you're everything. So that's how it started out. We now have 7 full-time employees.
Okay.
So I don't really run the classes anymore. I run about 4 a week right now. Just because the business side has kind of become its own like beast, like its own job,
Yeah.
especially once you start splitting out to multiple locations. So like we've had certain times where like something's come up and we're down a coach for a little bit, so I'll step in. I'm kind of like the reserves for that.
Okay.
But then that's happened recently, and it even highlights more like how much there is outside of just like outside of just providing the service.
Sure.
Because I was coaching a lot for like 2 months, and then when I stepped back, I felt like I was doing stuff on the business, and then I spent like 3 weeks like just head down, just like catching up, and
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, this is definitely a lot.
Yeah. So you said you have 7 full-time coaches, right?
Yeah.
And then I know you mentioned one of the things that's important to you is creating jobs in the fitness industry that are sustainable, people can live off of.
So what happens with a lot of places is like someone will come in and they work their butt off and they'll make like a little bit of money, but they'll be working a ton, and then they kind of hit the ceiling where it's like, okay, I can keep working my butt off but not really get paid, or I can go open my own place. That's like kind of the general like options that are available,
Okay.
especially in like the big gyms that we're talking about, or even now like there's more boutique gyms popping up, but they still kind of operate on the same thing. It's like they operate more on like you're a part of the community and that's important, and because it is hard, it's harder to like just pay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's easier to just try to like kind of control people, or to operate a lot through part-time people. So you'll have a lot of gyms that operate and they just have like 20 coaches that run like 2 or 3 classes and then work their other full-time job.
Okay.
So that's kind of like the norm in the industry. So I want to change that, and I'd like to see it change on a bigger scale, and that's always been like a big passion of mine. So I kind of came in from a different mindset of like, okay, how can I get them to careers? So like to me, career is having a salary. So knowing that you're going to get paid a certain amount every week, that you can pay your bills. For me, I think starting competitive salary is like 40 grand. Like that should be a base. And then adding in from there. So I actually do pay for benefits, so medical and dental
Okay.
for them, so that they have all that set up. And then we're working on getting retirement, and that's kind of like our last piece, to feel like we really have it. And then being able to have like those steps for how can they make more money, how can they grow. And also, I like the idea of giving people opportunities to own certain things. So like we recently added a kids class, a CrossFit kids class.
Okay.
That's just been, it's crazy. The kids love it, and it's
Yeah.
been growing so quickly. But what's been cool was an opportunity for one of the coaches. They were like, I'm passionate about this, I want to do it. And I can kind of give them the tools and everything, and it's pretty much we're co-owners on it.
Okay.
So kind of like also offering those opportunities for the growth that the people that want to take on. Some people just want to come in, coach their classes, do what we need done, and then other people like want more, but I want there to be like a step between like, okay, now I have to go and open my own
Right.
business.
Yeah.
Unless that's what they want.
Yeah. And it probably cuts down on turnover too, because you have, I'm sure with most places there's a lot of turnover with coaches and leaving, either, like you said, going to open their own place or just going somewhere else or doing something different.
Yeah.
Whereas this way you kind of really foster that community atmosphere because you had people staying there and really getting to know the people that they're working with.
Yeah, and like everything I said is like very, for the reasons right there, is very altruistic, but the other reasons are, yeah, the turnover is crazy in the gym industry, especially because if someone has a full-time job, that's like where their main focus is. So if something comes up, that's the first thing gets cut, is like a job that's not paying them well that they're doing on the side and things like that. So turnover was a big one, and like we said, if we want to foster these connections and everything, having people that have been there and they can connect with for, you know, if you're constantly turning those coaches over, they're going to have to make a new connection every time. So we've had coaches that have been there for 5+ years at this point, and I've had other people in the industry reach out to me trying to figure out how we're able to keep our coaches for so long. So that is cool too, that other people are starting to realize that and realize that that turnover is a problem. Like it obviously comes at a higher cost of, like, because doing the benefits and having full-time salaries is a higher cost than just paying someone by the hour.
Right.
But I think people are starting to realize, like, the benefits you get from that, you can't really like measure them. They definitely outweigh just the couple dollars that you save by paying
there's more
someone
of a value
else.
there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you're also doing a lot with charity work as well. You've donated a lot of money to charity. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we've done something called Check-ins for Charity. We kind of winded it down recently because we felt like it had really run its course, but we did it for a couple of years, and it was really simple. It was just when people would come in to work out, they would check in, and every check-in was worth 50 cents. And we would just add up the check-ins at the end of the month and then donate 50 cents for each check-in to the charity for that month. So we would pick whatever charity. So we started out just kind of picking the charities that we get a hold of and who would respond to us.
Okay.
And then in the second year, we were like, okay, let's just do anything that's local. So we started focusing a lot on just local charities because we felt like that kind of goes with our connections idea. And like if we can make connections and help out and kind of see the impact, that was a lot stronger. That's been like a really cool thing because it was like it gave our members a way. First of all, it gave us exposure just by them checking in. And then it gave them a way to feel like they were kind of contributing to the community, and it was very easy for them to do. And then we just kind of set the money aside each month and then would send it out, and we would get to go over, give them the check, take a picture, and kind of like really get to see the impact, which was cool.
So how much do you think you've accumulated over the time that you've been doing that?
So we would cap at about $500 a month.
Okay.
And I know for 2 years we were hitting the cap consistently. So we've done about like 10 grand is what we were able to contribute. So yeah, that was really cool. And we're kind of at a lull right now because we feel like, all right, everyone had kind of did the check-ins and it kind of had ran its course. And that's like a big thing on our mind is like, okay, how else can we kind of communicate or kind of connect with the local community again and do it? So we're looking for like a slightly different way. Okay. Kind of working on that now.
Great. And on the personal side of things, you recently got engaged.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
So tell us about that and where you met and.
Yeah, so actually we met at the gym.
Okay.
So we laughed because she was actually my first paying customer.
Okay.
So she came in at the beginning when we were doing like intros and stuff, and she was like, at the time we were just doing like intros with people, and then they were signing up for like a future date, like 4 weeks in the future. And her name's Dana, so she came in and did the intro, and I knew there was like a 3-week gap, so she was like, okay, I'm gonna sign up, I'll be there on the first class in January, I'll be there, and here's the money. And I was like, okay. I was like, just so you know, like there's like a 3-week gap, you can like come into the gym if you want to like work out, just let me know. Like I had so much time at that point. I'm just like trying to keep people engaged before that first class starts. And she was like, no, I'll be in on that day. I'll see you. I was like, all right. So she was actually my first like paying customer. And then she actually started coaching for me as well. So our relationship is like started with the gym and all, but it's been cool because like it's kind of morphed outside of that. Even sometimes like when we're together, we're like, all right, we do a lot of like, okay, we're gonna take 5 minutes, we're gonna talk about all our gym stuff, and then like that's it. Yeah, let's move on. Let's go on to the other things in our life, because you do have to kind of have that balance. So so we've been dating for a long time. I'm sure my friends and my family would definitely vouch for that. So they've been pushing me for a while. So we got engaged a couple months ago. Since we've been together for a while, we're just kind of going for it. So April, we're actually getting we're having the wedding and everything. Yeah.
Terrific, great. And you have your dog Stitch as well.
Yeah. So she's my homie. She comes to the gym with me, so she's a little bit of like the gym mascot at times. Okay. She's a golden doodle. So I grew up with a golden doodle, like our family dog. Her name was Louie, and they're the best dogs. They have the best temperament. They're very chill. They also don't shed, which kind of helps with the gym thing.
Yeah.
So at a certain point when things slowed down in the gym life, I actually put like a deposit down for the dog, and I was like, I want to get Golden Doodle from where we got Louie from. And for 2 years, she would call me up and be like, all right, we have a litter coming up, and I'm like, I'm not ready yet. I'm working like 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then she called me the one time, and she was just expecting me to say no at this point, I think. And I was like, okay, because things had kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
So I got her as a puppy, and she's been at the gym ever since. And she's just the best. And she's kind of the gym mascot, and she knows about the weights and stuff, so it's nice. She'll go lay down when like a class is going on,
Okay.
and then she waits till everyone's stretching so that they're in this position they can't quite get out of, and she'll
Yeah.
bring a ball on their face and be like, all right, let's play. So yeah, she's great to have around.
That's cool. And you do try to have some free time away from the gym. You mentioned you're doing a little bit of consulting with, the career aspect of it. You're also getting into some real estate as well. You own the location for the Medford gym, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I bought that. That's like been a whole new experience. We actually have the gym in one side, and then the other side, when I bought the building, was a brewery. So kind of got to go through that whole experience of like working with a tenant, especially one that might not have been too psyched that like I was the new landlord or something like
Right.
that. So that's definitely been, I think everything just with like owning a business, and like the building's no different. It's just like, it's all a learning experience.
Yeah.
Like I mess a lot of things up, and I think as long as you have that mindset that you're going to learn from it, it's okay.
Yeah.
So I got into owning a building, and it's just like trial by error. And I've had it for a little bit of time now, and I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. So the brewery actually sold to someone else, and they moved it. So now we have an arcade over there. So I kind of have like a tenant that like I have a better relationship with, and I'm getting to like learn all of that. So I definitely see the benefits of owning a building and how the numbers work and stuff now.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking, but I'm not trying to like force it. If there's like another building that comes along that kind of
Okay.
fits the criteria I need,
Okay.
I definitely would like to get more involved in that.
Okay. And you think you would maybe open a new location, or
I
just
think
kind of
3 locations
just
is,
kind of be a renter?
Yeah, the goal was always 3 locations. So like I had one, and for a while I was like, I'm just gonna run one. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I hit this point where I was like, okay, I'd like to learn multiple locations. I wanted to like figure it out, and I kind of came up with this 3 location idea of having like this triangle in South Jersey.
Okay.
So I think 3 is good, but also everyone I know that that has multiple locations or stuff says like 3 is like the minimum, like once like it's the most amount of work. So like you have to
Right.
learn how to like scale and like have systems and have management and everything.
Okay.
So everyone says like once you have 3 like down pat, you need to go more, just because like it's
It
like
makes
scales
sense.
better.
Yeah.
But in my head, I don't know if that's true. I believe that, but
Yeah.
I think 3, like I feel good with 3. It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's enough.
Yeah. Well, you got time to figure it out.
Yeah.
Also, in your free time, you like climbing. You're a bit of a gamer as well.
Yeah, I think all of that stuff is just, I think entrepreneurism can be very lonely. No one really understands, and it's also hard to, no one truly understands, I think, when you're running your business and the amount of like stress that comes with that, and it's just a lonely thing, I think.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, I love it, and I can't imagine doing it any other way. But I've found that just like having things that I can go to outside and like that can kind of like de-stress. So being able to like go and rock climb, because like I work out at the gym and I love working out, but it's still the business. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, oh, I see some dust in the corner,
Yeah, yeah.
something's not going the way I want, and it's like I'm like, oh, I'm still working.
Yeah.
So like
You
rock
get away
climbing is
from it.
yeah, rock climbing's been nice. I can go to someone else's gym and just rock climb a little bit, not worry about anything else. Same with even like playing some video games. Like it's just like it's really nice to just like sit down for like a half hour and just be like, okay, I can block everything out and just like focus on this. And then
Yeah.
when I come back, I think I'm on all the time sometimes for business stuff. My brain's always going. I'm never really off.
Yeah.
Like even if like I'm like, you know, I can be completely enjoying what I'm doing and somewhere else, but my brain's still kind of low-key working in the back. So that's just how I am, and I know that. So like having those like different things
Yeah.
to like focus on and distract a little bit, it just
Yeah.
helps like shut down a little bit.
And one of the other things that you have done to keep you busy in the past was you built a tiny house.
Yes.
So tell us about that. How did you get into it? How did you learn how to do it?
So one of my best friends calls me a tinkerer, and I fight her on it all the time. But she says I just always have to be like building or working. At a certain point when I was running the one gym, and I was like not really sure about opening other ones, I kind of had everything under control, and I just felt like I needed a new challenge. And at the time I came across like, it wasn't on TV or anything, so I just came across like a website of a couple, and they built this tiny house, and I was just like, that's really cool. And then next thing I know, like, I ordered a trailer and all the lumber and everything was in the front of my house, and I was like, all right,
Okay.
well, I guess I'm doing this now. So it took a while. I actually like had a plan and was gonna like have the whole outside done before winter and then do the whole inside in winter.
Okay.
And I had one friend, his name's Andrew Vernazza, he went to Lenape as well, and he's an engineer, so he helped me. Me and him were kind of like just doing it all. And we missed winter completely, so then it sat under a tarp all winter. So it took a lot longer than we expected. So I ended up building it. It came out really well.
How many square feet?
All right, so it was 28 feet long, and it was 6.5 feet wide.
Okay.
So it's like, I think it was like 225 square feet. It was pretty
Okay.
big, so it had a loft, had a kitchen, had a bathroom, and a
Okay.
shower, and then it had like a whole living area. It was like if you're like in Philly apartment or something. It
Okay,
was like
yeah,
the
yeah.
same
Right.
setup, same layout. And it was on wheels, so it moved and everything.
Okay.
One of the things with tiny houses that is tough still is like it operates in a gray area. So like I had it, and then we moved it. I lived at the time I lived in Hainesport on an acre. So I had it, we moved it to the backyard. My one neighbor wasn't loving it, so
Were you living in it, or was it just kind of for fun?
I wanted to, but then when the neighbor, I wanted to live in it, but I still had my house. But
Right.
more like an experience. But there was also a lot I learned. So like when I'm building it, there wasn't a lot of information on it. So like when I'm building it, I'm thinking I can just move this thing willy-nilly,
Right.
like easy to move.
Yeah.
And then you start building it, and you realize how heavy it is and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh, this is like a full. Like, you have to get a 1-ton truck. It's everything to
Right.
move. Halfway through, I was like, I should have gotten an Airstream and redid that. But I'm like, but I'm in
Too
on
far.
this. Yeah. So we built it. I actually stayed a few nights in it and tested it out and everything. And I actually, along that time was when me and my fiance now were moving. We decided we were going to move in together. So that's when we were moving to Haddonfield. And there was
Okay.
no way I could bring a tiny house to Haddonfield. Slightly different town.
Yeah.
So I actually put it up for sale. And a couple came and bought it, and they actually moved it down to South Carolina.
Oh, cool.
And they, as far as I know, we were going to stay in touch, but it never
Yeah.
really happened. So I like to think they're still living in it, and that's
Cool.
pretty cool. I built something that someone's using
Yeah.
as a house.
That is very cool. So the Airstream's next.
It is, yeah. The 3-location thing, I feel like I'm still feeling that out and figuring it out.
It's been great catching up with you and hearing what you've been doing, and congratulations on all your success.
Thanks.
Since leaving Lenape, it's been great having you here.
Yeah, thanks. This is cool.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking with Tommy's sister Maggie from Lenape's class of 2010. Stay with us. Welcome back to Where Are They Now? I'm Mark Sensini, and our guest for the second half of today's show is a Lenape graduate from the class of 2010 and owner of Sunflower Bake Shop in Mount Laurel, where she also resides. I'd like to welcome Maggie Alfinito to the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you here today. We spoke with your brother in the first half of the show, so now it's your turn. Tell us about some of the memories you have about coming to Lenape. At the time you came in as a freshman, Tommy was a senior, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was a freshman when Tom was a senior, so that was the first time we were in school together since first grade and fourth grade,
Okay.
where our classrooms were next to each other, and I used to joke that I swore my mom went to the school and was like, make sure our classrooms are next to each other, because I did not want to go to school at all. So this was the first time in, how many years.
Yeah.
So Tom drove me to school every day,
Nice.
only because our mom said he had to. So I'd be waiting at home, and, he would be taking his time, and we'd get to school late. And his homeroom was right next to the dirt lot, and
Okay.
mine was on the complete opposite side.
So you
So
had to
he would
run.
make it right in time, and I racked up, I think, 15 lates
Oh, boy.
in the first semester, which, was a detention. But, so I have Tom to thank for that.
Let's talk about a couple of the teachers that had an impact on you here at your time at Lenape. One was Mr. Spitz, that you had for math. Tell me about him.
I had him 2 years in a row. Junior year, I had him for AP Calc, and then I had him for BC Calc senior year. And I think the cool thing about him was, obviously, we were all pretty advanced in math to be in his class. And so the stereotype of that certain student, I feel like, is pretty high-strung, pretty, very worried about tests and studying and
Grades
this
and
and
that.
grades and things like that. And he definitely kind of broke that down and kind of made it like, at the end of the day, it's a math test, it's,
Right.
Whatever. So we had him for the 2 years, and I actually originally went to school to be a math teacher.
Okay.
And I think seeing how he ran his class and how, how he taught us and kind of connected with us really kind of pointed me in that direction.
Okay. Another teacher who was important to you was Mr. Lopez, which you had for English. Tell me about that.
So I had him for sophomore year English, and the whole theme of that year was transcendentalism and kind of, finding yourself and things like that. And, as 16-year-olds, he really kind of made us think about, what we wanted to do, but more importantly, just how we wanted to live each life, each day. And I'll never forget, he gave us this, I can't remember it exactly, it was like a coffee jar, and he kind of showed it as putting in a large softball, and that might be, school, friends, and family. And then each of the things he put in got smaller. And then at the end, you could fill all the space in the jar with coffee grinds, which was kind of pretty much showing that there's always time for your friends, for your family, always time to just be able to talk to someone and, get to know them. So I think a little bit later, after my first year of college, our family had a little bit of tough times, and I think thinking back to that class was just like a reminder of, if you're not happy, that there's really no point in, continuing whatever you're doing or doing whatever you're doing.
Right. Good. Well, I'm glad that had a good impact on you. As far as activities, you were involved in sports, field hockey and softball, and also a couple clubs with the French Club and the French Honor Society and National Honor Society and Buddies Club, which you've sort of continued in. We'll get to that a little bit later, but tell me about those clubs and some of the friends that you made from them.
Sure. So a lot of my friends I'm still friends with today. So freshman year stood out for me. Softball-wise, we had Mr. Krasik as a coach, and we had a really good team that year, and we kind of just, we had a blast. Buddies Club was, we went bowling with some of the kids in the inclusion classroom, and again, that was just a good time. A couple of my friends did it, and the kids would see you in the hallway, and they would want to know if you were going to Buddies Club and if you were going bowling with them. And they really remembered a lot of things about you. They wanted to know about your families and things like that. So we really created relationships with those, some of those students. And then National Honor Society, I actually got the same lady, Alice, that Tommy did the trash for. Like we said, it traveled all the way down. It was kind of like an unwritten thing that you would give it to the siblings. So we did that as well.
You had a lot of great memories at Lenape, and you had a great time here, and that sort of kind of not prevented you, but you didn't maybe put as much thought into your path after high school than maybe you could have. But you end up going to Rutgers, New Brunswick for a year, and then you realized pretty quickly that wasn't maybe the place for you. So tell us about that.
So I would not advise this to anyone, but I'm pretty sure I committed to the school without actually going to it.
Seeing it, okay.
I just was not, I don't know, I wasn't really about college. I wasn't about going away, and my parents kind of pushed it. I picked the school. Looking back, it wasn't the right fit at all. Most likely. So after the first year, I decided to transfer. So I did transfer to TCNJ, which I did realize was probably a better fit, a little bit smaller, things like that. In between that summer, our mom actually passed away. So I was starting at TCNJ, kind of not really feeling like myself, not really in it, and I went there for, I think it was like 3 weeks, maybe a month, and I just realized that, I needed
to make a change.
Yeah, to make a change. So that's when I went to culinary school. It was like a whirlwind week. You saw my brother, and my dad operates the same way. Everything is go, go, go right now. We need to, they go a mile a minute.
Yeah.
We went to visit the school. I did an interview. I got in, unenrolled at TC&J, and picked up all my stuff at school and was in school the next day in Philly.
Okay. So you're at the restaurant school at Walton Hill College. You spend 3 years there, and pretty quickly you realize that this is where you're supposed to be, right?
Yeah, so it was a pretty cool feeling. They only do hospitality majors, so hotel management, restaurant management, culinary, and pastry.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cool feeling. I feel like I made friends really fast, just because we're kind of all interested in the same things.
Right.
So we, it sounds funny, but we're all, we're all interested. We could all have an hour conversation about cookie decorating or things like that. So it's kind of cool that instantly, just by being in the same school, you kind of all have the same interests.
So much in common, yeah. And so you get your bachelor's of pastry arts, and you're valedictorian of your class. So clearly, this is the thing for you. And you mentioned even in high school you were baking cakes for friends and stuff back then, right?
Yeah, so it started out, I made a cake for a friend's birthday, and then their friend kind of saw a picture of the cake and then asked if I could make a cake for them, and it kind of snowballed from there, so much to the point that I was coming home from school, and some nights I was baking till like midnight. There was even a couple times I would get a little stressed, and my mom would be like, if you need to stay home today to finish this cake order, you can. So,
are you getting paid, or are these just?
Yeah, they were paid. Yeah, we even did, I think I even made like a couple cakes for like our softball banquet here. And actually, the last couple years, Miss Stansberry has called the bake shop, and we've done like the NHS cakes and things like that for here.
So other kids are spending all-nighters studying for tests. You're spending all-nighters putting the icing on the cake. Okay. But that's all right, because it serves you well later on. So you graduate from the restaurant school, and immediately thereafter, you're looking to open your own business.
Yeah, pretty soon after.
Okay. And your brother Tommy give you some advice, because he did a very similar thing.
Yeah, so he not only gave me advice, but he definitely broke in my parents also. When Tom wanted to open the gym, my dad, like he said, was very skeptical, and he was like, who's going to come to this gym? Like, why? Like all these questions. Sure. He's a little bit more conservative when it comes to business. Okay. So when I said I wanted to open the bakery, my dad goes, okay. Oh. And, Tom was sitting there like, this isn't fair once again. Yeah, so Tom helped me with a couple things. Number one, I was kind of like holding back for a little bit. And he pretty much said, if you want to get a job somewhere or try something out, then go for it. But if you're just waiting and holding back on not opening because you think you need to be a certain age or something like that, there's really no reason for that. So I think I was 21 when I opened up, and in hindsight it's kind of nice because you put in a lot of hours. I still put in a lot of hours, but initially it's a lot of hours and a lot of things that you kind of miss out on initially, so being able to get a lot of those tough hours out of the way when you're young is definitely helpful. Well,
especially in your line of business, holidays, weekends, that's the time when you're busy, when everyone else is doing stuff, then you have to work during that.
And he also helped me a lot too. Like he talked about just keeping the overhead very low. So I used all my savings to open the bake shop. And it was kind of, there were things, looking back, I probably should have purchased initially. But he kind of helped me realize, like, don't put yourself in debt, kind of work up to it. And I kind of had a list of, when I make X amount of dollars this holiday, I'm going to purchase this equipment or things like that.
So were you nervous at all opening this? Like, were you worried, maybe I don't have the experience I need yet, or?
Yeah, and like Tom said also, it's a lot of almost like guess and check.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, and Tom didn't touch on this, but I know me and him have talked about it. Being in business as a younger person, even a younger female, there's some pushback on certain aspects of that. When I was looking to lease a couple buildings, just from the sound of my voice, some of the landlords wouldn't even let me look at the buildings. especially not having, you know, any background.
Right.
So there was that. I also am in my second location now. So my first location, I did have a good amount of landlord troubles.
But your second location, it's been an easier time?
Yeah, so we moved about 1.5 years ago to a larger space.
Okay.
Yeah, and we really like it there. We're in a bigger plaza. Like I said, the first shop was a lot of put it together as I go.
Yeah.
So this shop, I really saved up leading up to the move.
Okay.
And then I could like fit out the whole front area, you know, get more equipment for the back. We have really loyal customers, and they were like in it from the beginning.
Yeah.
But looking back at the shop, I'm like, whoa, that was.
It was really bare bones.
Yeah.
You have an interesting story about the first day you opened.
We signed a release 2014. With any business, everything gets held up a million times over. So we took a whole bunch of pre-orders for Thanksgiving. I think we had like 100, 200 pies or something like that, which now would be fine, but especially the first year
Right.
was, you know, was a lot for us.
Yeah.
And we got pushed back on opening so much that we didn't open till 3 days before Thanksgiving. So to give you an idea, we start prepping for Thanksgiving now about 4 or 5 weeks ahead of time.
Okay.
So we had 3 days.
3 days.
So we actually, the day before Thanksgiving is one of the biggest days of the year for us.
Yeah.
And we actually worked until about 4:30 a.m. And it was just me and one friend from pastry school. And for some reason we went home for an hour and we slept for an hour and we came back at 5:30 a.m. But at 4:30 a.m., we were so tired. We were rolling out pie doughs, but we were sitting down and we were just like spread across the table, rolling the dough out. And then the next day at pickup, you know, my dad was there and he's bringing cheesecakes. Like there's just stuff all around the kitchen and
Yeah.
people are waiting like 20 minutes for their pie because they're still coming out of the oven. So it's pretty cool to kind of see, you know, how it's evolved.
Yeah.
And it's also cool to see that that first year was all my family and friends supporting and buying for the holiday.
Right.
And now we kind of have our own customer base,
Great.
you know, that we've had for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, if you were able to make it through that day, then
Yes.
you know you were good to go. So also with your business, for the last 3 years, you've been working with the Lenape District with the Transition Services Program. Tell us about that and how that's been going for you.
Sure. So the past couple of years, we've had 2 students from the program. They come in 3 hours a day with their job coach. And the programs run really well where we actually, they really do a good job of placing the students. And most of our students are actually interested in a job in the culinary field.
Okay.
So we had a couple students. One of our students is working at ShopRite. Another one of our students went on to RCBC for their culinary program. So they come in for 3 hours. They do anything from stamping boxes. They make the cookie dough, brownies, all kinds of things.
Okay.
All the workers at the shop enjoy having them around. We had one student 2 years back to back. She actually moved out of district.
Okay.
And her new district had a similar program, and their program reached out to us and said, you know, this student came to us and said that if at all possible, she wants to be placed at your shop.
Oh, okay.
And we had never worked, you know, with that district
Yeah.
before. And that was really cool because the move was really hard on her. She left all her friends,
Yeah.
everything like that. And she would come in some days really upset. And about an hour into her shift, she would just stop working and look around and be like, you know what, guys? I came in such a bad mood. And after being here 1 hour, I feel great, and I love being here.
Oh, that's great.
And my day has turned around. And she would say something like that
Yeah.
every day, and like we'd look around at each other. We're like, we want to cry.
Yeah. What a great
So,
feeling
yeah.
for you. And it's great for them because they get, for a lot of them, if they want to go into that field, it's probably the first time they're getting experience working, you know, in that industry, and probably getting a lot of great experience
Oh, yeah.
at your shop. Terrific. So when you're not working, let's talk about some of your interests outside. You have your dog Patrick. And you do CrossFit. You
Yes.
go to Huga CrossFit with Tommy. hang out with family and friends? What
Yeah.
else do you like to do?
I read a lot. Like I said, I go to Tom's gym. I wreak havoc over there while he's coaching. Yeah, we're pretty close with our family. We have 2 other brothers. So a lot of Sundays we go to my dad's house, and we have dinner there. I just moved
Do you usually
recently.
bring a pie or a cake or something?
I usually bring them the leftovers that
Okay.
are in the shop. My family's not big on sweets,
No?
which
Okay.
is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
My little brother got a haircut that made him look like Beaker from the Muppets. So one year I made him a Beaker cake, and we brought it to the restaurant, and the waitress was like, okay, like, do you want me to cut the cake? Like, how many slices? And not one person at the table wanted a slice of cake. And like, from her view, it was like, okay, someone bought this nice cake, and they're
Right.
not even going
You're
to
not
eat
gonna
it. So we left the restaurant with the cake whole. No one had a slice, so yeah.
Well, sometimes maybe it looks too nice that you don't want to ruin it.
Yeah,
By eating it
people
or
do
cutting
say
it.
that a lot.
Well, congratulations on all your success
Thank you.
since Lenape, and it's been great having you here today and talking with you. Thanks for being here.
Sure, thank you.
And that will do it for this episode of Where Are They Now? For more Lenape District alumni interviews, check us out at youtube.com/Lenape District TV. We'll see you next time.